These are two of the best graphite iron shafts on the market. But who did it better? The first shaft I have here is the LA Golf A Series stiff shaft, and it's 105 grams. Now within the spectrum of shafts for these, we've got high launching A flex, senior flex, regular flex, and then it gets stiffer and lower launching as we get to the stiff. So this one is labelled as low. In comparison, we've got the Axiom 105 stiff, same weight, same flex, and it's got the Velocore tip technology. So we've got a nice strong weave of graphite in the bottom section of the club here. It reduces twisting and off-center hits. It keeps the club nice and stable. I've got them both in my Srixon ZX7 demo head, and this basically I can click in and out the shafts because it's got the adjustable hosel there. I've built these shafts in a way that allows me to get exactly the same swing weight when I change the head over from shaft to shaft, which is ideal. I've got the same parameters on both test clubs. Observations while I was building these in the LA Golf shaft, we had a thicker butt section that got narrow quite quickly, so it does get a bit thinner quicker than the Axiom. The Axiom's got a bit more girth here, it stays thicker for longer. And I don't know if you can see on here, but we keep a bit more thickness in this shaft as we go down to the bottom. We've got slightly wider looking tip right at the base here. And in theory, that should launch the ball a bit lower with the Axiom because we've got a wider, more stable tip section there. But we could have something sneaky underneath the outside of this shaft in the LA Golf that just makes the ball go that little bit lower. It could be a lot more rigid, and it does feel quite stiff, which is nice. Now they're engineering graphite shafts in irons to be stiffer profiled, so you get all the stability of something that's more like 120 plus in weight with a steel shaft, but we get lighter in the graphite, but we don't lose any stiffness, we don't lose any characteristics that allow the club to stay nice and stable, produce more consistent flights. So I've got the pin set at 190, which is about my normal 7-iron yardage, or my recent 7-iron yardage, because I've got a little bit faster recently. Let's ping a few balls at the target, just get a feel for it. I'm going to hit 3-3-3-3, alternating between the shafts. Now I've got this head on 2 degrees flatter, which holds the ball out to the right-hand side. I tend to flick the ball left, if anything, so I do prefer that setting. That will be consistent with all of the shots because I'm using the same head. It'll be interesting to see which ball flies lower in terms of the highest point the ball reaches, difference in launch and spin, and all that fun stuff. Let's plug into the Axiom. Straight at it. LA Golf shaft. Now I wanted to build both of these in the same swing weight, so they've got the same chance of in terms of like how I release the ball, because the swing weight can sometimes change how you release the club. If it's lighter, you might release it a bit more. If it's heavy, you might delay the club a little bit more behind, so you go lower, righter. So those parameters are nice and consistent. So with the LA Golf shaft, when I go from the Axiom straight to the LA does seem to come out a tiny bit thin. Now as the shaft bends and releases into the ball, the head gets thrown down, so it changes the height when you've got like a stiffer shaft compared to a softer one. So there could be a little something there in terms of the stiffness of the shaft that changes the strike. Nice. Back into the Axiom. So the LA Golf shaft feels firmer and harder. The Axiom feels like it's just got a bit more give in it, but the differences are very subtle. With the LA Golf shaft being that little bit thinner here where it tapers down a bit quicker, you could put thicker grips on here and it not be as impactful. +4 grips I think would be quite good on a shaft like this, just from what I've seen. Speed-wise, I had a bit more out of the Axiom. I think I did strike it a bit cleaner. I think there were a few thin strikes in the LA Golf shaft that if I kept them in some clubs, they would stay a bit more consistent. It's just when I'm jumping from one shaft to the other, it did just come out a tiny bit thin. Launch angle higher with the Axiom, lower with the LA Golf shaft. So it's a lower launch and it's a lower peak height and lower spin. So we are getting a lot of low elements to that LA Golf shaft compared to the Axiom. The Axiom just that little bit more height. So the Axiom, albeit a little bit slower, maybe that's a little bit to do with strike, but it's launching a bit lower, it's spinning a little bit lower, and we're not quite getting as much distance, but we're talking 2 yards to be fair. We've got 4 yards of difference in the LA Golf shaft, we've got 2 yards of difference in the Axiom, which is interesting. I've always found the Axiom to be nice and stable, nice and consistent. We've got the Axiom up here in this top corner, we've got the Axiom in that smaller circle and the LA Golf shaft in that slightly bigger circle. I do tend to see those sorts of results with anything Velocore where the dispersion is that much tighter because I think that technology is very good indeed. But if you're looking to replace your iron shafts with something like this, I've got it in my golf bag in the 4-iron and the 2-iron because I wanted that stability from that tip. I've got the Axiom 105 stiff. Normally I go like 120 extra stiff in the iron shafts, and I felt like going lighter in that 4-iron and 2-iron just gave me a bit more speed, a bit more ease through the ball without compromising on stability. LA Golf shafts and Axiom Golf shafts, both very good. They both do what I think they should do. For me, the Axiom was just that little bit tighter, just that little bit more consistent. I prefer the slightly higher launch, the slightly higher spin, because I tend to spin it a little bit lower. With a 7-iron, I'm kind of looking for about 6,000 spin, so they're both under that threshold. It's just the Axiom is slightly closer to it. If I played on a windy course, for example, maybe the LA Golf shaft would be slightly better for me because of that slightly lower peak height. It would get affected by the wind less and slightly lower spin just to cut through it a bit better. So hitting into winds, that might be a bit more beneficial. But because I'm still under my target spin rate, we've got a lot of stability from both. Well, these are both decent. I don't think there's many places that will have them in stock or in a demo bay to try it out. So hopefully this video has given you some tools to purchase, or at least enlightened you to the world of graphite iron shafts. They're getting pretty good. When building these shafts, you've got the LA Golf shaft is all one length of shaft, and you cut different bits from the tip depending on which iron you're putting that shaft into. With the Axiom, we've got long, mid and shorts. There's 3 different shafts in the set of Axiom iron shafts. So the longest irons we cut nothing, 1/2 inch and 1 inch. The mid shafts we cut nothing, 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And the short shafts we cut nothing, 1/2 inch and 1 inch, depending on the iron that they're going into. Tipping instructions for both shafts can be found online. What we want to do is we want to search for the specific shaft and tipping instructions on Google.